Everybody loves somebody sometime. Everybody falls in love somehow. Thank you, and oh, I feel great. I woke up this morning and had breakfast in bed. Didn't plan it that way. It just happens I woke up on the kitchen table. My wife was a little upset with me. She couldn't get to sleep last night. About 3 o'clock this morning, somebody rang our doorbell. My wife went to see who it was. Some guy was lost, couldn't find his way home. It was me. Yeah, my wife hates to be disturbed like that. She only gets 4 hours of sleep 6 times a day. So right away this morning, she starts a fight, wants to know if I can name our kids. I know them off by heart, I think. Oh, I have to tell you, Huntley and Brinkley wanted to be here for the show. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it, but they asked me to say good night for them. Here's a fellow to tell you all about this show.
Welcome to our latest edition of Just Dino Shorts. I'm pleased to be joined by Cindy, Ron, Ed, and Marissa. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Okay, we're going to be talking this edition about the MD. I'm not going to say it in full, so I can never get it right, but it's the Muscular Dystrophy Association. There we go, got it right.
Good job.
Thank you very much. Got my teeth in for that. Cindy's going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about a few other things that DMA has got planned in the months ahead.
Just Dino Shorts.
The only way to fly.
Is it true what they say about Dixie? Does the sun really shine all the time?
The sweet magnolias blossom on everybody's door.
How do folks keep eating possum till they can't eat no more? Way down yonder in New Orleans,
In the land of them rings.
there's a Garden of Eden. That's what I mean.
There's a heaven right here on earth with those beautiful queens.
Way down yonder in New Orleans. Okay.
No gal maid has got a shade on sweet Georgia Brown.
That feet for those who need is sweet Georgia Brown.
Fellas, she can't get
All the fellas that she ain't met, Georgia claimed her, Georgia named her, sweet Georgia Brown.
They call her hard-hearted Hannah, the Vandal Savannah.
The meanest gal in town.
Evening spent with Hannah sitting on your knees.
It's like traveling through Alaska in your baby days.
They call her hard-hearted Hannah, the vamp of Savannah. She ain't.
Is it true what they say about Swanee?
Is the dream by the stream so sublime? Do they laugh? Do they love? Like they say in every song. If it's true, that's where I belong. Michael Landon, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Well, during the Labor Day weekend, I traveled to St. Louis, Missouri to join the MTA telethon in St. Louis. And all of that began when Elliot and I and Ron were talking about what charity would we want to do even before 2024 came around. And we decided on the MDA Association. Elliot did some footwork and got us connected with Michelle out of North Carolina, and she and I corresponded for several months, and then we had a meeting. And in one of the meetings, I said, I would love to be a part of the MDA telethon. And she said, but why? Because she really had no clue that the amount of contribution that Dean gave to MDA. And so she and I chatted for the longest that day about his involvement and what he did. And she said, absolutely, I want you to come. And so we book a flight, get the car, get the hotel, and I drive out to the venue the day before, and it's just absolutely beautiful. But let me back up. Before I left to go on this trip, I am not one to get butterflies. I am not one to get nervous or scared. But I was getting ready to leave for work that Friday morning, and I had this overwhelming sense of butterflies, all because of the trip that I was about to take. And I thought, what in the world? I don't ever get this. And I sent a message to Ron and Elliot, about it, and just really couldn't put my finger on it. And then it all started to make sense to why I was feeling that. And funnily, Elliot, I had just posted Dean singing Where or When at a Republic National Convention for Reagan. And that song has always meant so much to me, but it finally dawned on me there were little bitty parts of it that had to do with what I was feeling. And, Dean was at the very beginning of bringing awareness to the Muscular Dystrophy Association with Jerry Lewis during their Colgate Comedy Hour shows. And I was going to be able to bring the DMA back into that. We are now part of promoting muscular dystrophy just like Dean did. And it was overwhelming for me to know that I was going to be a part of that. And so, we go through Saturday and I get ready for Sunday. And guys, whenever I drove through the front gate of this place and I presented my business card, it was like red carpet all the way. They said, go to, the parking lot and they'll take you from your car. They'll walk you to the venue and everything, you'll be taken care of. And that is exactly what happened. I didn't have to say a word. They knew who Dean Martin was. They knew his contribution to MDA. And they took me to these different people that were working the telethon. And they said, oh, Dean was the one that did this. And Dean was the one that did that. And, he was so instrumental in his own small way. And I get back to my hotel room and I'm thinking, I wasn't a big part of what Dean would do as far as working the telethon, but knowing that the listeners in the audience, the fire department, the people that, were major contributors then, they knew who Dean Martin was and his contribution to this organization. And it just made me happy to know that the Dean Martin Association is now connected with them and we're a part of them. Mm. And we've got a lot of things planned. We're going to have an article in Just Dino about, what they're doing as far as research, and hopefully be able to get some of the doctors and other executives to do some little Dino shorts. And Marissa, I might get with you on that. And it, just to know that we're carrying on something that he began. We have our trademark is on that. And it was just an exciting time to know that we're a part of it, and they treated me so kindly. They treated me like I was somebody and I am nobody. But it did, and I thought about Elliot's dad and what he had done as far as, bringing the association along. And guys, we have come so far in the past 3 years as far as making our presence known. And I think that it's an exciting time for us, all the way across the board.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, you know, it's just amazing kind of where we are now and where we were, and that we were kind of ticking over as an association, literally, and we were kind of perhaps kind of contributing here and there to some Capital Reprise albums, but now we've got a whole different approach, and you know, we've almost kind of come home with regards to the MDA, and it's, you know, Dean started it, and obviously Dean kind of at some point would have kind of drifted away from the MDA, which is why obviously they weren't au fait with him kind of being that involved when we initially spoke to him. But you know, the fact that Dean's name is now kind of back involved with the MDA, and I said to Cindy as well, and how we did it before, just kind of backtrack. We had Share, the charity in LA that Jeannie Martin had set up. So something else that Dean was involved with, and we were going to kind of do a yearly kind of change. So it was going to be Share one year, MDA another year, next year was somebody else. And I kind of thought about this, and I thought, well, Share means a lot to Dean because of Jeannie setting it up, but the MDA seemed to be something that is kind of more close to home for us because of the history that goes back before Jeannie, you know, with Jerry, and it's kind of come right through. And there's obviously it's about a kind of a condition that's kind of quite close to home for some of us in the association, and we're kind of conscious of the importance of that and the research of that. And so I said to Cindy, let's just have the MDA as our chosen charity forevermore. So everything,
Well, and we'll be having those posts on our Facebook page as well, you know, of little snippets that we can share.
yeah,
Um, so I think it's a great move, and they are more than happy.
mm,
Michelle emailed me Friday afternoon, and we chatted for a little bit. So I think that we've made a wise decision,
absolutely,
and again, we're bringing Dean back into the spotlight
mm, yeah,
in something that last year when we did all of the posts on MDA, I can't tell you how many people said, I didn't know he did that.
yeah.
you
But
know?
which is odd that wasn't known or well known, but bearing in mind that it was, I suppose perhaps people thought it was Jerry that did it, just Jerry.
Hmm.
And then he came back in '76 with the two of them together. I think that's probably people's perception of the MDA. That's the only involvement that Dean ever had. Um, but yeah, but we're obviously re-educating people in this, and I like that as well. That you know, we're privileged enough to know his career, but we're also aware that other people know his career more than we do in certain circles.
Right.
And we're always kind of willing to kind of learn things that we didn't necessarily know ourselves. But
Hmm.
as ambassadors to his career, I think we're educating a lot of people that weren't necessarily aware of his charity work. And Ed, likewise, your kind of main focus for Dean is his Stubenville years.
Hmm.
So kind of what is it about that fascinates you? Why would you use that as your go-to for Dean's career overall?
I'm interested in the Genesis part of it. You know, the hometown, the roots. I think the that's the truest part of him, of anybody. You know, is your hometown. Everyone knew you before you made it, and you know, childhood memories and things of that nature.
Mm,
That just interests me. The town itself is amazing.
mm,
Yeah, I'm from Chicago, so those steel mill towns that have, some of them have dried up, is fascinating. It's the dynamics of the area.
mm,
Um, the contrast to what it was to what it is now. It's amazing, amazing in a bad way, but I've been there several times and been to a festival. So yeah, just the genuine of the hometown of where he came from,
mm.
you know. So
Yeah, and Ron as well, kind of being the only English guys on the team. Um, our kind of of view of Dean, and that kind of genesis, as you kind of said, Ed, about him, is almost, I think I used the word again before we start recording, mythical. And I think kind of looking at kind of Vegas in the 60s and looking at Stubenville kind of for Ron and I think is more mythical perhaps than guys that are American born, because it's something that you're naturally familiar with and can see and understand, accept and see how America's kind of changed. But for kind of Ron and I think kind of Ron, you hope you will agree with me, but it is a kind of almost a kind of a mystical kind of world that he almost embodies.
Yeah, well, no, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
It's another
Yeah,
land.
Yeah, it is mystical, even to Americans, I think, because it's a part of Americana that no longer exists.
Yeah.
It's sort of it's the evaporated. And well, Steubenville was called Little Chicago. It had the gambling joints, the ladies of the night. So it embraced little towns like that, and embraced the big city dynamics. And so, you could go to a small town like that and have a bunch of different nationalities blend together. Some of Italians and Greeks and it's like any other melting pot of America. So it is mystical. It's even more mystical because it almost no longer exists. So you could go back and just imagine what it was. It's not like New York or Chicago or LA, where it's like, this place hasn't changed much. No, it's gone. So it is mystical. It's no longer exists. There are some elements that exist, but some of the bones are still there, but most of it's gone, and it makes it more dramatic.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I kind of love history, and I'm quite tactile when it comes to history, and kind of even kind of going places I don't like going there because it's full of tourists. It kind of ironically, because it kind of takes away the kind of the magic of the place. And there's kind of one example I kind of use well that makes my son laugh is that Portsmouth, big port town in south of England, where Victorias, HMS Victorias, and Lord Nelson was there, and all this kind of like the Royal Navy history was there, and I love it. But when I get there, it's full of people from America. I'm joking. I'm joking. It's full of tourists.
They're the
Wow.
worst. The worst.
I accept that. No, I accept that. That's fine. It's true. No, I take
It
that.
is
No.
true.
It is.
It's
and
true.
it
No,
kind of takes
fine.
away the kind of the idea of those places for me. Like even Stonehenge, and I love Stonehenge, and I was fortunate when it wasn't open to the public. I don't know if you can walk around it. I think you can for the solstice. But at one point, some years ago, you couldn't go to it. And a friend of mine is a history teacher, so he had access to the site. And I went there, I just stood there for 20 minutes touching the stones, Slightly off topic here from the Dean, but and it's the old idea of kind of that tactile thing, that things are missing. And I think some ways kind of what we do here as DMAs, we kind of hold on to that past because it's important, and educating people about Dean's past and his genesis, Ed, as you that word that you rightly
Well,
used.
Ed and I are going to write an article on this. This is the part of the foundation to Dean's birthplace.
Yours is much larger than mine.
Did it fall down when you took the brick out then, or is it still there?
What?
Did that fall down when you took the brick out? Was it holding it up?
The thing about Stubenville is also, you mentioned the foundation of that building is I don't know how much of Stubenville understands the history. You could buy a lot of things. You can't buy history.
But that's just the thing, is that whenever I was writing an article last year, I forget what issue it was, but I wrote about Dean Martin putting Steubenville on the map. When you Google what made Steubenville, Ohio famous, Dean Martin is one of the first items that pops up.
And Jimmy the Greek.
Yep.
There's a porn star there from I forget the porn star. She's from there too. But yeah, no, it's
We don't know how you know.
I heard things. Cindy told me. I said I had no idea, Cindy. Who was that?
I know. Those conversations we have.
Yeah. So anyway, no, they have the history. I hope they understand what they have, and I'm just there, to help them push it along, to keep them, the legacy going.
Sorry?
Can you add to that then? What we might be doing?
Hmm.
Stubenville?
I do want to add to that, but I'm going to go and address Ed's request. But I somehow got on the statute committee for the DMA. So I'm not sure how that happened, but we are on the statute committee. And we're working at sending letters out and getting that, getting some publicity, getting some donors, because I would really, 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 really love to unveil that statue at the festival next year. And I talked to the sculptor, and he said he needs 3 to 6 months. And so, in my little mind, I start backtracking. When is 6 months from June? And
January.
I think that we're going to make it. Going back to what we're doing in Stubenville, first of all, I find myself getting caught into these little waves. And this time I grabbed Marissa so that she could ride the wave with me. But
I'm sorry, Marissa. I'm sorry.
first of all,
No.
first of all, we're sponsoring a Nutcracker in the Nutcracker Village, the Dean Martin Nutcracker.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so whenever I'm talking to this girl about it, she said, well, the Dean Martin is not available. Would you like Peter Lawford and she said somebody else. I said, no, I want Dean Martin. And she said it again. She said, well, he's not available. And I said, well, who has him? And she said, okay, if you're serious about getting him, then I will contact the person who has sponsored him to see if he would sponsor somebody else. And I said, you do that. And she came back and she said that this person had graciously accepted my offer. And then I thought, well, dang, now I've got to sponsor this thing. But we will have the Nutcracker in the Village. Marissa and I are going to go be in the parade on December 7th.
Yeah. Yep.
And we might be elves too. I didn't tell you that, but we
I
might be elves in
I
the
suggest they
village.
go as sleigh girls.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, that's with the theme. I'm not tall enough to be a sleigh girl.
Exactly.
SLA1,
Yeah.
SLIGH.
I don't have the legs for it.
So anyway, we're going to do that. And, but the Nutcracker will have a year's worth of advertisement and all kinds of links that on Dean that they can click on. And hopefully, possibly, last year they were interviewed by multiple news sources. So maybe, they will zoom in on our Dean Martin Nutcracker and we'll get some publicity from that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we are making our name known in Stubenville. And, we are now leading out the festival for 2025. We're having a golf tournament, which thank goodness Ed's on our team.
I'm so excited.
Because I can barely fill out a putt-putt form. But Ed has been so instrumental in guiding me through things to ask. The tournament will be held at the golf course that Dean played at. And so now we're trying to find pictures possibly of him being there. And they haven't surfaced. But yeah, we've got a lot of great things that the Dean Martin Association is leading out on in Stubenville. And, so far they've loved us. They've appreciated us.
And I think as well, one thing that's for me is quite an emotional kind of point is that next year is our 65th anniversary.
Right.
And it seems quite poignant that next year all these things are happening. And we're not
But Elliot, it's like I've told you, we have been building this momentum for a couple of years now. We've been in place for these items, and we've grown, with a team that can carry them out, whether it's writing or telling me how to run a golf tournament or, whatever. We're in place to do this. I really truthfully feel like, and the people of Stubenville have been nothing but gracious. They have been nothing but gracious. We've got the Facebook page ready to go. Somebody texted me the other day and they said, why do they already have the Facebook page that says, Dean Martin Festival Days for 2025? I said, because I asked for them to do that. And they said, whoa. But we've got that taken care of. I've been in correspondence with the high school. They're going to do our website. That people have just they've been excited about the planning and some of the events, and we're working in cooperation with a group called the Harmonium Group Project, and they are really big at revitalizing Stubenville, which Ed, you would love if you go to their website, the Harmonium Project in Stubenville. But they we're going to have street bands and all kinds of activities going up and down the areas of the downtown area by the Spot Bar, and we're just going to have a blowout of a festival. It's just going to be fabulous. We've already reserved hotel rooms, which, Ed, do you need a hotel room?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
One or two?
One.
One, two?
One.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, they have welcomed us with open arms, and it's wonderful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to my point earlier about the MDA and Dean coming home to the MDA via us, and this is the same thing. Dean's come home to Stubenville via us, and yes, okay, the festival's been going since what 20, 30 years?
96.
Yeah. So it's got some history behind it, but as we've kind of established the last few years with COVID, has kind of affect that little bit, but kind of we're now kind of getting back to the festival where it needs to be. And I think with your kind of input, Cindy, Ed, and Marissa, kind of what you're doing there is just phenomenal, and I just can't thank you enough. And it's going to be a great year for DMA, let alone
It is going to be.
Yeah.
Well, everything's topless these days anyhow. Okay. You all know my old pal Ken Lane. You were in on this, huh?
I used to know it.
Ken doesn't have to do this for a living. He's got a great new invention. It's a windshield wiper that won't hold parking tickets. Or a piano that won't hold me, I tell you. Okay. Well, I think I'll go to the couch and I'm going to sing a little. Okay, I'm afraid to open the thing here.
Let's kind of move on now to talk about the Dean Martin TV show.
Okay.
Now, this started on the 16th of September in 1965. So next year will be a big anniversary for it, but we're going to focus on it this September. And we've been kind of talking about it in the latest issue of Just Dino. So if you haven't got that, the link is below. We love the Dean Martin TV show here at the DMA. I think it encapsulates Dean's entire career in 50 minutes, over 1,000+ episodes. It's got comedy, it's got pathos, it's got drama, it's got music, it's got everything. And as a variety show, I think it can't be beat. And I think I'm not alone in thinking that.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah. It's
that's why it won awards.
Yeah. And I think
Award-winning.
it's a shame that you can't watch it today unedited on shiny Blu-rays.
But
don't
get me started.
That's right. So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Don't
know,
get me started again. Another topic.
yeah, and I think it is a shame. And obviously, there's so many kind of rights issues with this, and we don't quite know who really owns them.
Yeah.
We don't know if NBC owns bits of it, or the Garrison family own bits of it, or the DeMartin family estate owns bits of it, or it's just really possibly more complex than it should be. And I think it is a shame. And with kind of Dean's popularity still pretty much up there, he is missing from those Blu-ray shelves. He really is.
Hmm.
And certainly over here in the UK, we've got a massive big chain of stores called HMV, which is EMI Capital, funny enough. It was owned by EMI. I think it's independent now. But it was HMV was an EMI label, and they had a series of stores around the country. There's only a handful left now. A few went into administration, another company bought them. Same old story that you get across the world. And I can go into any HMV that's local to me, which is probably about 5 or 6, and I could probably find one Dean Martin best of, and it's a 3 CD, The Real Dean Martin. That's what it's called, and it's a great collection. And I think it's just such a shame that he's not hasn't got the exposure over here. I look at the DVD Blu-ray shelves. I know there's a lot of streaming that happens, but a lot of DVD Blu-ray shelves, you probably find Rio Bravo for $5 somewhere, $2.99 over here. That's probably going to find is Rio Bravo, and maybe the Cannonball Run on Blu-ray. And that's it. That's all you see of Dean's movies. And I think you ask the person in the street who he was over here, and they probably will say he was that guy who used to sing with Frank Sinatra, wasn't he? But then when I go to when I go to Rat Pack shows, like I did last month with Thomas in my hometown of Southend on Sea, it was a sellout. There were standing ovations. We were sitting amongst all these fans. I assume they were fans of either them or of the era. They were singing along. They knew the words, and everyone's song they sang along to was Dean's.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't sing along with Strange in the Night or anything else that they were doing as Frank. And obviously Sammy's music is a little bit kind of less well known to some extent. But everybody knew That's More. Everybody knew Memories Made of This. Everybody knew Dean's songs. And I think it's such a shame that he doesn't have that exposure as the real person. And we only ever experience him now over here, maybe at Christmas, when the Christmas albums come out, or they play the Christmas tracks in all the stores, or you get tribute shows. So kind of looking at what's missing now of Dean, and the one big thing that I would love to have everybody to know of beyond the Dean Martin fans is the Dean Martin show. And I just don't get why we won't ever see it properly, apart from very fuzzy uploads on YouTube. So kind of we were talking about our favorite moments in Just Dino, but my one will always be that bit with Orson Welles where Dean's playing the
That
sound
was
effects
hilarious.
It's a good one. It's so funny.
It's that's what I kind of love about the show. And it was my exposure to Dean, really, because obviously we started getting these shows sent over from Dean and Greg Garrison, who would send shows over to us. And we'd sit there and I would watch them as a kid, little boy, next to my dad, who was kind of watching this avidly and making notes of everything Dean was saying and doing, was writing notes for the latest newsletter, whatever. And I would sit there absolutely captivated by this complete lunatic called Dean Martin on these shows. And it was only when I kind of became really aware of who he was as a person, as Hollywood royalty, for a man of his stature who would willingly make a fool of himself, I think is just wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that particular clip of him being the sound effects guy for Orson Welles is very stoic, but also tongue-in-cheek radio reading. Where Dean has just got this such a natural way of expressing humor and comedy without even saying anything. And he doesn't say a word in this sketch at all. It's his expressions, it's his body language, it's what he runs around everywhere, up and down the stairs with high heels on, jumping into bed, shutting the door, pregnant pause, all that kind of stuff. And I just think it's just such an aspect of Dean's career that nobody really, I think, truly acknowledges or understands outside of fans of Dean Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you're talking about, that is, he's very secure. He wasn't insecure, and I think people gravitate to secure people because I think secure people are genuine. They're not trying to trick you. They're not trying to make you believe they're somebody else. I think he was secure in who he was, and that came across as genuine, and he was funny, and he's very spontaneous, and yeah, and I just think that comes out, and I think people still love that love that type of personality, and that's why I think it worked. And I don't think you had that many type of personalities from then to now, but the ones that are sincere and spontaneous and those are the ones that really touch with the fan base. They're not trying to be fake.
And the flip side of that is what I have always admired about him is anytime that he would sing in a group or with a duet, whoever he was singing with was the only person he was interested in, that he was focused on. And you can see it in his body language. You can see it in when he sings, and you can just feel the chemistry working between these two people.
Yeah.
And, just the sincerity and the appreciation that he had for that person. And
Right.
I have always loved that. Even Bing Crosby, when they do You've Got to Have Style in that little clip, Dean is the only one that acknowledges Frank when he sings and dances, and then he acknowledges his mentor, Bing. And I think that is probably my most favorite part of the movie is watching Dean pass on the appreciation, to his counterparts. And not everybody does that. Not everybody has that heart. Not everybody has that drive.
Yeah.
They don't have the wherewithal to think that think about other people first. And Elliot, what you're saying about him not saying a word during that sketch, most of my favorites are with Foster Brooks.
Yeah.
And what he does is he's able to just sit there and just let the other person bounce things off of him. I think with the Foster Brooks, I think he probably said 20 words in like a 6-minute sketch. That was hilarious. But he doesn't have to show up anyone. He just clouds, and that's all he says. And Foster Brooks just takes off, and he does that to, like you said, like both of you guys pointed out, that he just lets people bounce things off him, and he's happy to be the mirror that reflects the greatness. He did it for 10 years with Lewis, and then he did it with everybody else he was with, and that's all he did was he just let other people be themselves. And the genius was he didn't have to be the biggest guy in the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a great quote, and I put it in my dad's book. And it's a line from Transporter 3 with Jason Statham, and he's talking to his French colleague on this rowing fishing boat somewhere. And obviously in France, Jerry was and probably is a big thing. And they were having a conversation between the two characters, and his French counterpart was saying, but Jerry's fantastic, he's the best. And Jason Statham's character saying, yeah, but Dean was the funny one. You could walk on to a set with a martini glass cigarette and get a laugh. Now that's genius. And I think that's kind of what he did. He kind of you kind of gravitate to him. We've said this before, many times, Cindy. You kind of gravitate towards him. And when you watch the TV shows, even though he is stepping back for his guests, I still watch Dean.
Yeah.
And I can't. I'm naturally biased toward him, I suppose. That can't really be argued with. But I think it just shows his magnetism. That's what he has a really quite way of saying.
Yeah. This week on the 16th, I did a series of posts that day for his first show, and the last post was that song that Dean and Frank sing. Anyway,
One of them, yeah.
what is the name of it?
Style? Which one?
No. Oh shoot. He's but the basis of my statement is Greg
I'll add it
Garrison
in
did
after. Yeah, I'll edit it in.
Greg Garrison did an interview before Frank and Dean sang, and he challenged you to watch these two individuals in this number and tell me where your eyes are. Now, granted, Dean is pulling potato chips out of his teeth because Frank had just given him potato chips before he sang, so he's got them all in his teeth. But yeah, you can't. I've tried to look at the other person, and he has a magnetism, like you mentioned, Elliot, that just draws you.
Yeah.
Just, you're just there. Floating crap game.
Right.
That's the song.
Yes, of course. There we go.
There it is.
Bit of DMA, we don't know what we're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. You can't. There's nobody like him, and I think that's why the TV show was just so unique, because you can't. Nobody else has really copied that format. I'm sure they've tried, but I never saw the Jerry Lewis show that was on NBC, and I don't quite know what that format was. Ed, did you see it? Marissa, have you seen it?
No, I've seen bits and pieces of it.
What was
Like
that?
little bits. Yeah.
Was that a
It
similar
didn't
kind of thing,
last-
or
It didn't last very long.
no?
It was
No,
more comedy focused.
Okay.
It was more comedy. It was kind of like the Danny Kaye show, but Danny
Well,
Kaye's was more successful and was more music and comedy based. But of course, being that Danny Kaye was primarily a comedian, it was mostly comedy based and skit based.
Yeah.
But
okay. Yeah. I mean, so I kind of and I suppose the Dean Martin show hasn't been kind of copied or successfully copied, let's say, because of Dean. And
There's only one Dean.
There's only one Dean, absolutely. And no matter how many tribute artists we know and we love and respect, there is only one Dean. And it is quite it's testament to his staying power that he was still able to transfer over to the kind of the 80s, 70s into the 80s with such a change of the music scene. And Cindy and Ron and I kind of spoke about this recently, about how he had the staying power to go through the rock and roll era to the 60s kind of beatnik kind of style, then the 70s kind of glam rock, then the kind of 80s kind of disco kind of punk, and then the 90s, whatever happened in the 90s, I have no idea. I'm sure I was there. I don't remember.
I'm sure something happened.
Yeah, something happened. Yeah, it's a vague memory. But he had that staying power, and I think that's probably why the TV show did come to a natural end, because, as you said, Marissa, in one of your articles recently, that TV was changing. Variety shows were falling out of fashion, so they adapted the Dean Martin shows to become the roast, and then the comedy classics, and then the Christmas specials, and so he was always there. And if you look at the Christmas shows, the Christmas in California particularly, it's a very watered down version of the TV show, and in fact it's not even recognized as the same kind of from the same studio in some ways, because obviously it's on location for a start. And a lot of the songs were dubbed, because he was on location, so it was a whole different beast.
But he was the king of dub. I mean, he could. Russell Ross and I, who was his cameraman, he had me look at this video. He said, "You tell me if he's singing it live or if he is lip syncing." And so I did, and I said, "Well, he's lip syncing." He said, "How can you tell?" And I, went through my little scenario, and he said, it could have happened in the days of being with Jerry Lewis, or he just could have had that natural talent. But he was the king of lip syncing and overdubbing, and to make it seem like it was really happening.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose that it was the nature of the shows he was putting on once TV show had finished, that he couldn't do those live performances anymore, or recorded live performances.
I just don't know what I'm going to do when Bruce, Bruce, when he goes on vacation, I just don't know. I won't let anybody else touch my hair. I lived in such a rut until my razor cut became the talk of the whole industry. And now the ladies love my personality.
Handsome pompadour was all I ever wore until my barber restyled it for me. And now I've got the cutest personality.
There are certain oils they can smear in it, and some of them they pour beer in it.
And when they get the scotch out,
Watch out! Although they might prefer a quiet manicure, they never mind my refined repartee. I've got an awful lot of personality. I really left my antennas since I finally got my henna in. Can't wait till they Marcel me. Yeah.
tell me. I'll have my crew cut, Doc.
I'll get my eyebrows plucked. Oh, what a wonderful day it will be. We'll wind up with a brand new personality. There are certain tricks done by certain girls with facial packs and sausage curls. They'll really go to town, boy. Town, boy. So if you need a shave or just a finger wave, they might insist upon doing it free. If you know how to use your personality.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. And
Thank you.
We'll do this much more
Thank
often.
you.
All right, we enjoyed
I'll
it.
try to do this more regularly now.
Yeah, it's fun.
Exactly. We can do
Perfect.
it.
Right. Okay.
All right.
I'll see you guys later. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, take care.
Thank you guys.
Peace.
Bye.
And that brings us to the end of another edition of Just Dino Shorts. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you too to my colleagues, Cindy, Ron, Marissa, Ed, and Thomas. Thomas couldn't join us this time, but he will hope to be back with us next edition. And next month, we'll be chatting with members of the International Club Crosby, the world's longest running fan club. They were formed in 1936, and they will be joining us to talk about Dean and Bing Crosby. And they will, of course, be writing for us as well for the upcoming edition of Just Dino. And if you're not a subscriber already to the magazine already, then please have a look and click on the link below and in the description. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Click on our logo to subscribe to our official YouTube channel. Why not become a member of the DMA today? You can get free access to our exclusive members-only magazine and our Facebook page. Visit DeanMartinAssociation.com and head to Become a Member. The Dean Martin Association. For Dino. For you. For the good times.